en garde, Toreador, en garde, Toreador, Toreador. Et songez bien, oui, songe en combattant, un noir te regarde, et que l'amour t'attend, Toreador, l'amour t'attend.
Welcome to the Mad Max Minute, where everything's under control, situation normal. We had a slight weapons malfunction, but everything's perfectly fine. All right, now, we're fine. We're all fine here. Now, in Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, 1 minute at a time. I'm Rick.
And I'm Julia.
And today we're talking about minute 79, which begins with Pig Killer happy to be seeing Max again, and it ends with Max closing a pair of heavy doors to hold up his pursuers. Joining us this week are the godfathers of the movies by minutes genre, Pete the Retailer and Comic Book Alex from the Star Wars Minute.
Hello there. Hi.
Hello.
Oh, wait, should I have said General Kenobi when you said hello there? Damn.
Yeah, can we start over?
All right.
Let's start over.
Big ol' rewind.
How you doing?
What does a gangster General Grievous say when a gangster Obi-Wan drops down and says that?
Oh boy, is this a riddle?
Yeah, wait, is this a riddle or is this a genuine question?
I'm prompting a response.
So I thought we were done with the prequels. What's going on?
Yeah.
Oh, you're never done with the prequels.
We may be done with them. They're not done with us.
Right.
You keep trying to get out and they keep pulling you right back in.
That's not the right show.
Well, gentlemen, it's good to finally get you both on the show. We tapped Alex for the first movie. He was there when we had our big climactic run-in between Toe Cutter and the truck. And we missed you guys completely for Road Warrior, which is a crying shame.
Yeah, my favorite one.
Yeah.
Well, second favorite one. Now that Fury Road is probably the first number one.
Gotcha. I think it was more of a scheduling thing more than anything.
Oh, yeah. As you guys well know, these things can be impossible to schedule, and once you're locked in, it dominates everything until you're done.
We don't take it personally.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, knowing how many spreadsheets I have and how ironclad they can get, it's a little daunting trying to work everything out into proper pattern.
Yeah. Oh, tell me about it.
But as you said, you two have gone through the entirety of the original trilogy, the entirety of the prequel trilogy, and now we're in hiatus awaiting the triumphant return for the new movies. But here in the meantime, we've got a little bit of Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome to talk about.
Indeed.
So we start off this minute with Pig Killer. He leaps down from the generator train and he approaches Max and the kids, and he's got just this look on his face of delight. Or at least I would interpret it as delight.
It seems to be. The music certainly seems to be telling you this, too.
Yeah, it's the happy waiting ones music.
Yeah. It's like jaunty, like, it's almost like nautical.
When I first just clicked on the minute and it started with that music, I assumed that this was some kind of like someone else had put that music in, like yakety sax or something.
Right.
And I was like, oh, this is part of the real movie. Weird.
Yeah, something this light and happy feels a bit out of place in a Mad Max movie. But that's what the waiting ones bring to the movie, is a sense of childlike wonder and hope for the future.
I'll buy it.
Yeah, which is very optimistic.
Yeah.
One person that you really don't think of when you use the phrase optimistic, though, is, of course, Max. He's very much a realist, and as we switch perspectives to look at him, he's got this look on his face that I feel like I've worn many times before. It's that look where you're being approached by someone who is obviously more excited to see you than you are to see them. And I feel like I can sympathize.
Yes.
Totally. We've been, especially if, maybe it's like at a party, something like that, maybe these guys are, picture these guys, just transpose them into a cocktail party or something scenario. It's like,
Cocktail party.
it's like, oh, hey, man. And you're like, hey, hi.
From Pig Killer's perspective, this is the first time that he's realized that Max is part of this gaggle of children, right?
Mm-hmm.
So previously, when Pigkiller and Max were together, Pigkiller asked Max, "Who are you?" And he said something like, "I can feel that something is changing. And I feel that you are going to be the cause of it." And now I think part of this grin is he feels vindicated. Like, I was right. You are in the middle of this.
Pigkiller can pull out his little chalkboard and just put a tally mark in the Pigkiller side of the chalkboard.
Right?
Point for me, Eric.
Probably the only point.
1-0.
I mean, he's a slave for life, so I think everybody else has a lot more hash marks than he does.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Is it for life? You don't think they have like some kind of retirement package or something?
Well, I mean, life down there is maybe 2-3 years max, so...
Yeah, he
That's
was
true.
sentenced to life.
Mad Max.
Got it.
How long that life lasts is completely up to him and the just abysmal conditions that he's living in.
But if you can last like 15 or 20 years in that condition, I think they should let you free after that point. Like if you are tough enough to get, although maybe that's the last people you want setting free is people who are tough enough to survive 15 years in a post-apocalyptic prison.
Maybe there's like a corporate ladder kind of thing.
That's probably it.
Maybe he can, like, after like a while, he gets a raise, he gets a new kind of supervisory position.
Yeah.
I would certainly hope there's a corporate ladder in Underworld.
Mm-hmm.
If you can survive 5 to 10 years of that, maybe instead of getting a crystal paperweight or a nice watch for those anniversaries, they say, hey, you know what? You've been down here so long. Maybe we'll let you walk around here without the chains. Or maybe we'll give you a softer slavery collar.
Yeah.
Or maybe we'll give you a couple of slaves to boss around of your own so you can be middle management.
Right.
That's the key. Or new gloves or something.
Yeah.
You're making this sound pretty good. What are the hours?
I think, what is it, 24/7?
All right.
Oh, minus time for Thunderdome fights.
Oh, of course.
Yes.
Are those obligatory?
Yes.
they
I
don't-
think
Or does
so.
it look bad if you don't show up? Do they like, oh, Jenkins didn't come to the Thunderdome today?
I feel like it's akin to a corporate softball game. Like, if you're the shortstop for the accounting department and you don't show up and they lose to shipping, I mean, granted, shipping spends all day lifting boxes and moving packages around, so they're
That's not fair.
naturally more athletic. But you know what I'm trying to say.
Right.
You got to support your district.
And if you're looking to climb the corporate ladder, you have to show up to that stuff.
Yeah.
I
yeah, that's
never
true.
go to my work events, but now that I'm like lower management, it just occurred to me the other day, now I have to go to the Christmas party. It's
Yeesh.
expected of me.
You know what that makes me think of?
That you have to go to my work Christmas party?
Well, that wasn't my line of thinking, but now that you bring it up, that's something I realized. But when we first were spying on Underworld, when Max was up in the penthouse with Auntie looking through the periscope, doing his, submarine captain thing, there was an assistant that went over and tugged on Master Blaster's backpack to show him that someone was looking through the periscope. That is probably the Underworld version of sucking up to the boss. Being like, hey, boss, we're getting spied on. I let you know that.
Yeah.
That's probably how they got to be middle management.
Right.
It's by sucking up to the boss.
And snitching. In Underworld, snitches don't get stitches. They get...
Promoted?
Yeah.
Right.
The rhyme really doesn't work.
They get, I don't know. Yeah. Something that I'm trying to think of a way that stitches could be like a good thing. They get like, like a badge or something stitched onto their little rag of a jerkin.
There you go.
Yeah, I like it.
Rag of a jerkin.
Rag of a jerkin. The bounty hunter.
Snitches get switches to better positions.
There you go.
Well, you could always change the first word too. Don't make it snitches. Make it like rats or tattletales get.
Right.
Well, it's even harder. Battle fails.
Battle pails.
Well, see, now you're
Something
just
like that.
altering the deal.
You can alter the deal as long as you don't break the deal.
It's true. You can shake it. Don't break it.
Don't bust the deal. Right?
If you could transpose anything from the Mad Max universe into the Star Wars universe, I would put a broken deal wheel in Cloud City. That way, in Empire Strikes Back, when Vader starts altering the deal, Lando can be like, you broke a deal, buddy. You got to spin the wheel. And then Vader can get tied up, put on a space horse, and have a space mannequin head put on his thing and sent out into the desert. Because that is something that would totally be allowed to happen.
Yeah, he was bound to respect the rules of Cloud City. He couldn't be like, hey, so, oh well.
Right, because if he gets sent out into the desert with all that sand,
He'd hate that, yeah.
he's going to be particularly unhappy.
It's the worst. No, it's everywhere.
Alex, wasn't the wheel the kind of proto Cloud City from the Marvel Comics?
It was. There was a space casino called the Wheel. Yeah, I guess there is a tie. That would have been before Mad Max, this movie. So
right. The Star Wars comics influenced both Empire Strikes Back and Beyond Thunderdome. That's what you're saying?
There's a lot of Star Wars influence in this episode specifically.
Yes, there is.
The whole movie kind of reminds me of Temple of Doom in a way.
Yeah.
It seems very like 80s Temple of Doom kind of a movie to me.
Right. We have to go into a dark place and save the children.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. A lot of big, obviously shot in a studio set pieces.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of a thing.
You know, I never drew that comparison, and I'm a little disappointed in Tom and Jerry and Christy that they never brought it up when they were on.
They're too close to it.
Oh.
Yeah, most of the time we compare it to Crusade.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did they talk all about Star Wars? Then we'll just talk all about Temple of Doom. Like they kept comparing it to Empire or something.
That's a good trade-off, I think. But moving on to someone who is definitely in a better mood compared to those that are slaves and break deals and everything like that. We cut from Max and Pigkiller over to the Blackfinger, who is more or less just meandering along. And as the Waiting Ones music fades out, we realize that Blackfinger is singing to himself. And I had the darndest time just sitting here watching the movie. I recognized the tune, but I couldn't make out the lyrics. And I was sitting there listening. And I share an office at work with the choir director for the college. And I said, come over here and listen to this. Tell me what it is. And she's like, well, he's singing in French. It could be the Marseillaise. And I said, oh, wait, there's no way that that's the Marseillaise. So Julia has the novelization, and it says black and white exactly what it is in the novelization. And so I'm messaging her, and she's like, oh, well, I'll just check it when we get home. And I said, okay, but I want to know now. And I ended up going on Facebook. I have two really good sources I check with. There's Shem Herman, who we had on the show, and then there's another guy who I consider an expert, Melvin Zed, and he is French. He would know exactly who it is. And he's like, oh, dude, it's Bizet's Carmen. He's singing Toreador.
There you go. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then I listened to it and I'm like, of course he's singing Toreador.
Okay, I want all three of you. Did you really recognize the name of that piece?
I recognized the tune, but I didn't know the name.
Really?
Is that built in before it goes back into the chorus part? Like where, yeah, totally. It rang a bell when I heard it, and I couldn't think. I also thought Marseillaise, but for a second, but then I was like, I don't know. These guys will know, I'm sure. And I'm like, there you go. It was a whole research project that unearthed it.
Because he's walking in, he's like Toreador, Toreador. And then
that was on The Simpsons. They did that big joke about that song
because it goes Toreador en garde, Toreador, Toreador, and then he goes et songe bien oui songe en combattant, but he doesn't get to say the ton en combat. He gets cut off because of who is standing in front of him, but he pronounces it weird where the middle of combattant sounds like combat pluck or something like that. Is really throwing me off.
I actually really like that. First of all, this whole being able to recognize this music thing makes me feel very uneducated because I had absolutely no idea what the tune was. Even knowing what the name of the piece was or who wrote it completely still way over my head. So I feel like I need to go educate myself on classical music.
It's technically opera, not classical music. But
Yeah.
Well, actually,
Proving my
Alex
point.
says.
Anyways, I like that there's a word that he pronounces weird, maybe a little bit silly, because when you're singing to yourself, you do that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Totally.
Fudge lyrics.
How many French operas do you know every single word to exactly as it appears in the opera?
Can't be more than
0.
like 3.
Yeah.
At most. So do you think that means, how did this character hear this music? How did this character learn this song? It doesn't strike me like he went to the conservatory or anything.
Right. He's a mechanic. And you can assume if you are a mechanic after the collapse of civilization and the onset of the apocalypse, you were probably a mechanic before the apocalypse. And I know that there are going to be people that say, what do you mean that mechanics can't listen to French opera? I'm not saying they can't.
Well, although if he let's say it's after the apocalypse. To listen to music, most people are probably relying on like old, like hand cranked, like Victrola style record players, if anything.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was gonna say, or it's just the oral tradition.
Well, yeah. So you think there are people outperforming this?
Well, maybe just some people, just like a group of them just learned like one bit of it, and then that would
that's where the different words come in. He was misheard and retranslated and game of telephone.
Yeah, I mean,
I was going to say maybe since he was a mechanic, he was able to find and repair a Victrola, and then his musical library is kind of limited to things that were popular in like the 40s and earlier.
I get it. That's nice. He listens to Mary Had a Little Lamb by Thomas Edison.
Yeah.
that hit single.
I wonder if you see an apocalypse coming.
If.
Which the scenario in this story, I think they really kind of did see the apocalypse coming.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
How would you treat our culture to preserve it? Like people who are interested and care about, let's say, French operas, would they take steps to preserve it physically in various different ways so that however the apocalypse really does happen, that it would be preserved? And I guess that's work that should already be happening, like way ahead of time.
Yeah.
So do people have access to this stuff in an analog manner? Do they have access to the sheet music?
Right.
Or are there lots of people who went out and purposely memorized these pieces, knowing that they would never be able to hear recordings of it again?
I would say it's probably more like that. Because even if they save sheet music, like you have to be able to read music to be able to perform it. I guess like analog records are probably your best bet because that seems like the technology that would be the easiest to recreate. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's why they put a record on that Voyager probe, is so that theoretically aliens could find it and figure out how to, why they would know even anything was on there. I don't know, but
right.
As long as it's well maintained,
right,
those things will last for a long time. And
long time.
it makes sense that he would have something like that because goods and items are constantly streaming into Bartertown.
And it's interesting that you bring up the Voyager record, because if I'm not mistaken, the Voyager record has on the case mathematical instructions on how to make something that would play the record.
That
Probably
would
a
make
very
sense.
basic record player.
Right.
Yeah.
Probably very simple, that can be described mathematically. And I don't see why we couldn't do the same thing.
Like, yeah, they're like these, like, this is sound waves, put a cone here.
Yeah.
Like that those kind of instructions, like really basic, just kind of, yeah, I would love to see that. I guess that's a whole nother, it's the fun of post-apocalypse, is that you can kind of pick and choose. Although then also, like, culturally, then you get to kind of, dictate what survives and what doesn't.
Yeah.
So you could be like, oh, well, yeah, there was this amazing show called The Simpsons. They only did 10 seasons. It was amazing.
Or you could sit down a bunch of kids in a room and be like, oh, I'm going to tell you this wholly original story that I invented, and I'm telling it for the first time, about a wizard who uses a sword and he fights a guy in a black set of armor and he's secretly his father, type of thing.
Right.
I definitely think that once the apocalypse comes, that Star Wars will make that leap into being a proper actual religion. You know what I mean? I think once there's no such thing as owning ideas, like once there's no trademarks anymore and everyone can do their own Star Wars, then that's when Star Wars will become the religion.
Right.
More so than people already say it is. Yeah.
So you think we should start prepping now?
I thought that's what we've been doing with our podcast for all these.
Oh.
Yeah.
Start. Yeah.
It might be a good idea to take some of those DVDs and Blu-rays and just transferring them to film, so that way you can run an old-timey projector and have those in the apocalypse.
I would rather have Star Wars be completely forgotten than have the special editions be the ones that live on. Neil Young does not. He thinks that everything digital is eventually going to become erased. So he records all his stuff analog because he's like, once the apocalypse comes, then there's gonna be no way to recover like stuff from the cloud or digital. Here's a floppy disk with all my music on it. So
Right.
I wonder if he still does that.
What he had his own like digital thing a little while ago. I mean, I'm sure it started, analog, but he made his own kind of like digital music player and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So
I wonder if he eventually caved in like the rest of us.
But then he'll be then once the apocalypse comes, we're only going to listen to Neil
Neil
Young,
Young, Thomas Edison, and Bizet's Carmen.
and Bizet, yeah.
So, just as a bit of a history lesson, Carmen is an opera in 4 acts by the French composer Georges Bizet, based on a novella of the same title by Prosper Mérimée. The opera was first performed at the Opéra Comique in Paris in March 3rd, 1875, where its breaking of conventions shocked and scandalized its first audiences. After the premiere, most reviews were critical, and the French public was generally indifferent. Amidst this, Bizet actually died suddenly. It was after the 33rd performance on June 3rd, 1875. So he didn't get to live to see it become internationally renowned. So It initially gained its reputation through a series of productions outside of France, and then it was revived in Paris in 1883. Thereafter, it rapidly acquired popularity at home and abroad, and Carmen has since become one of the most popular and frequently performed operas in the classical canon. 2 of its numbers, the Habanera from Act 1 and the Toreador song from Act 2, are among the best known of all operatic arias, which is why I knew the tune, but not the name.
Makes sense.
Right.
Okay.
So the opera itself is written in the genre of opéra comique, with musical numbers separated by dialogue. It's set in southern Spain and tells the story of the downfall of Don Jose, a naive soldier who is seduced by the wiles of the fiery gypsy Carmen. Jose abandons his childhood sweetheart and deserts from his military duties, yet loses Carmen's love to the glamorous matador Escamillo, who sings the Toreador song, after which Jose kills her in a jealous rage because misogyny. The depictions of proletariat life, immorality, and lawlessness, and the tragic death of the main character on stage broke new ground in French opera and were highly controversial.
So you think there's any significance to that being the song that he's singing?
Perhaps.
I think it's an earworm.
It's just a catchy tune.
Yeah.
I think it's catchy and he's got it stuck in his head.
It is really catchy. The whole idea of the Toreador song, as far as I've come to interpret it, I've said it once before, I'll say it many times, I am not a music critic. I am barely a movie critic. But the Toreador song strikes me as a fun little ditty. It's sung by Escamillo as he enters this tavern, and he's toasting all of the people there and talking about drinking with them and the life that he lives as a matador. It's very light.
Right.
But also, yeah, it's an earworm.
Light opera.
Exactly. So as I mentioned before, Blackfinger is singing this song. He's walking through the pigs. He's got this wrench, carefree, fancy, not even worrying about the world. And then he stops suddenly and he sees this group of strangers. And there's a definitive split in reaction between Max Pigkiller and the kids. Because the 3 little ones off to the side, Tubba, Anna, and Skyfish, they're all smiles. I don't think they've ever heard someone sing like this before. Whereas all of the older people in the group, Screwloose included, they're a bit more cagey about this new arrival.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, did you think that has something to do with the singing, or are they scared, or they're like, what is that sound coming out of his head?
I think the children are delighted by this talent on display, and Pigkiller and Max are the ones that truly understand the implication of the Blackfinger walking in on this situation. And their fears are well-founded, because Blackfinger looks down, sees that Ironbar and the other guard are just knocked out on the ground. He looks back at them and he says, "Hi," and then runs away, because if they took out this guard and Ironbar, Blackfinger's not a fighter. He's not going to stick around in this situation. He's going to get the heck out of Dodge.
Yeah.
Do you think Blackfinger recognizes Max? He's had a makeover since the last time he was there, so it's possible he doesn't. But if he does, then he's had experience with Max and knows that Max is trouble.
It's true.
And Max knows that Blackfinger is loyal to the establishment.
Mm-hmm.
Even if he doesn't recognize him, he could just be like, well, now here's another guy who just kind of showed up over here.
I have a feeling that Blackfinger recognizes Max as the guy who disabled the dynamite and is the man who owned the vehicle. Because Blackfinger was there for the disarming scene, for the alarm for Max confronting Master Blaster during the party. So Blackfinger has had a lot of experience with Max. And yeah, he's got a haircut.
Right.
And he might look different than he did before, but I still think that Blackfinger would be able to recognize Max as the guy who was sent to Gulag.
Yes. And certainly as somebody who does not belong there. That plus the guards laying on the ground, certainly something to be concerned about.
Yeah. So Blackfinger books it. He gets the heck out of Dodge, and Max gives chase. He pushes past Savannah, and they both go running through this little hallway. And Max just has a hell of a time getting through these pigs. I mean, both of them do. It's not even an easy way to traverse. And fun thought experiment. Julia, I want you to give me, without thinking, the first thing that comes to your head when I ask you, what is the first thing that you would hate to have to chase someone through? Thing or substance?
Mud.
Really?
Alex, what about you?
I guess I would say like 6 feet of poop, or like just like, you know, like raw sewage or something like that.
Pete, what would you hate to chase someone through?
I'm trying to think. I think I'm going to go something stickier, like honey, maybe.
All right.
Ooh, yeah, honey would be awful.
You get the kind of, you get the slowness of it. It would be frustrating to try to chase somebody through it, and it also kind of ends up all over you. And then,
Well, but if you're gonna go for the texture of honey, then it should be like mucus or something. You know what I mean? Because I would rather run through honey than I would through a swimming pool filled with mucus.
Yeah, I don't know, but after a while, the honey would just get like it would just really get to
More
you.
so than the mucus.
Yeah, I don't know.
Now, it's funny that Julia said mud, Pete, you said honey, and Alex, you said excrement, because my example that I thought of was Jell-O pudding.
Oh my gosh.
There you go.
It kind of combines all three of those.
Wow.
I think we're all in agreement that we'd hate to wade through something that's viscous and sticky.
Well, I just think that room right there must smell terrible, just being a room full of pigs. So.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, there. You know what? What about like goldfish? Like not the crackers, the animals. Just like piles and piles of goldfish.
Oh my gosh.
It's like you can't even lift your feet up because you'd step down onto goldfish.
Well, they have to be dead, right?
And they'd get all slippery, and you'd fall into the goldfish, and it would be like a comedy routine almost, where you're just like, you know, running in place, trying to get the other guy who's ahead of you in a goldfish mess.
I'm glad you mentioned tripping and slipping, because one of those pigs gets startled by Max and goes to run, but he Scooby-Doos along the ground and then falls over.
Maybe that's where George Miller got the idea for Babe.
Aw.
Oh, there you go.
There are so many sources in this production of where George Miller could have taken a look at things and said, you know what, I should make an entire movie all about pigs.
So he clearly liked it.
He had such a good experience. Yeah. He was like, I had always heard don't work with kids or animals. And he put both in this movie. And then he was like, you know what? I'm going to stick with the animals.
So as Max is chasing the Blackfinger gets to this giant set of doors, and he stops for a moment, looks back, makes sure Max is still chasing him, then disappears through that door, and Max chases him through. And they go down a bit of a hallway and turn a corner, and they disappear for about 5 seconds. And in that 5 seconds, I can assume that Max turns the corner, suddenly finds himself looking at a large room full of other guards, and maybe there's like a TIE fighter in the back and whatnot. And they turn to start chasing him because they come right back around that corner. And I had a hard time counting how many guards are chasing Max at this point, but there's a lot.
A lot of guards.
Yeah, the room seems to be foggy. Is it steam from
I would
all
say
the,
steamy.
the hot pigs?
Or it's steam that's being heated by methane fire
Yeah,
to run
maybe
pistons or
a
something.
mix of smoke and steam.
Yeah.
The air's really gross down there. I mean, never mind the smell, but just like the air quality in every possible way down there is awful.
Yeah, it can't be good.
But the big thing about this shot specifically is that it's incredibly reminiscent. I would call it an homage to Star Wars, the motion picture. And I went and checked. It's been roughly 5 years, and this is great because I found a website that tells me like the difference between two dates. 5 years or 1,834 days or 262 weeks since you two first discussed the scene where Han Solo chases that stormtrooper, runs into a bunch of other ones, and then has to run back and tell Chewie to book it.
Yeah, it's a famous scene.
Oh, wow.
So forgive my lack of Star Wars knowledge.
I forgive you.
When did that movie come out that had that scene in it?
1977.
Oh,
it was
wow.
updated when the special edition came out, but the original one was 77.
Right. Yeah, they that sequence in particular got adjusted to be more. Originally, it was just 3 or 4 guys that he cornered, but the same idea of following some guys, and then they turn around, they're like, "Wait a minute, we can chase you."
Do you think perhaps more guys were later added because this scene had been recreated a couple of times with more people chasing to greater comedic effect? Do you think George Lucas was inspired by that?
Specifically from Mad Max, from this movie, you mean?
Well, yes, but there are other places where this exact scene plays out
Right.
that I can't think of, but
I think if you ask him, he would probably say that it was always his idea to have it be a much more, a greater number of stormtroopers that he went chases.
I'm sure it was.
But he just didn't have the wherewithal at the time. They only had a certain number of costumes and extras available budgetarily. So I think it's more effective, more striking if he's only chasing kind of 3 or 4 guys, because then it's a mental switch. He's chasing 3 or 4 guys and then they kind of come to a wall and they're like, wait a minute. Why are we running from this guy when there's more of us? And he's just shouting. Then they kind of turn around and they chase him back. Versus in the special edition, it's all of a sudden it's like, oh, a couple hundred guys. Sure, that makes sense. That's more of it's a less subtle joke.
Yeah.
And here I like the kind of subtlety or the allowance here that they let it go kind of off screen, breathe for a second, and then come back being chased by. They don't follow him through.
Yeah, I thought it was really the 15 seconds that shot lasts, where when they start running to when they disappear in the fog to when he comes back, it's 15 seconds. And like you said, about 5 seconds of that you're just looking at a steam-filled room. So
yeah,
especially in today's era of quick edits and got to keep people going all the time, it really kind of stands out as a patient scene.
Yeah.
That's something I really like about George Miller's style, is he is not afraid to take his time and let a scene drag on for effect to bring the point home.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen any of these, other than obviously the Fury Road has been the most recent because it was... I saw it in the theater when it was out. Mm-hmm. But, the rest of these I haven't seen since, probably the 80s. And
long time.
I had forgotten how much kind of style there is to it, how much artistry there is to these. I just kind of thought that there were, I thought that most of the creativity was in the kind of setup and the design, but the actual kind of movie making of it is really impressive. I've been noticing a couple of things in here that I'm like, oh, that's nicely done.
Yeah, George Miller does have some really great techniques.
Yeah.
So as Max runs back, pursued by the guards, he passes once again through those large, heavy doors, and he stops for a moment and turns so that he can swing these doors shut. And luckily for him, Savannah shows up. She helps him get those doors closed. And then they start to turn this giant bar to just lock this door closed. And at this point, the alarms cannot be more activated. So many guards saw Max that there is no way that an alarm isn't being raised. So ultimately, the Blackfinger won in his goal to alert people of their presence. And Max has failed the stealth check for this situation, but at least they can put a pause on this pursuit so that they don't get that much further. And speaking of pauses, it seems like a good place to stop for today. We are more or less at the end of the minute. Pete and Alex, where would you like people to go on the internet to find more of you?
Well, we do a podcast, like you said, called Star Wars Minute, which you can go to find by going to starwarsminute.com. And we also have podcasts we do separately from each other. I do a podcast called Godfather Minute, which is like this, but about the Godfather. And Pete, why don't you talk about the Devo Show?
The Devo Show. Yeah, I do another show called ABC Devo, where we go alphabetically through all of Devo's songs from Fourth Dimension to A Wiggly World.
Have See, I don't want to make a joke because it feels so obvious, but when has that ever stopped me? So I guess when a podcast comes along, you must subscribe to it. It's clumsy, I know, and not elegant at all, but we are hardly dealing with a more civilized age.
No.
In this instance.
Where were you like 6 months ago when we were starting it? We could have been saying that all along.
I'm always here.
Right.
People just need to approach me for ideas. I keep telling George Miller that as we go through these movies. I'm filled with all this gold. And, you know, he didn't come to me in 1984 because I was not born yet. So he gets a pass. I don't know what all these other Hollywood types' excuse is. But as for us, we'll be coming back on Wednesday. Max and Savannah are going to close that door completely and just totally delay the guards so they can retreat to the big room, where they find that Pig Killer is going to drive them out of there. Amidst all of this, Auntie is finally brought back into the movie, and Iron Bar pops up again to take a swing at Max, which, like most things in Underworld, is a plan that quickly goes to, PG-13, quickly goes to energy. I'll say that much. So come on back on Wednesday and we'll get it done. The Mad Max Minute podcast is a fan project by Rick and Julia Ingham.
The Mad Max franchise was created by George Miller and Byron Kennedy, is presented by Kennedy Miller Mitchell Productions, and distributed by Warner Brothers.
Mad Max Minute is produced and edited by Rick Ingham. Our opening music is Verdi's Dies Irae by Daniel Batista of danielbatista.com. And our outro music is We Don't Need Another Hero by MilitiaVox of militiavox.com.
Our home on the internet is madmaxminute.com. You can follow us on Twitter at madmaxminute, like us on Facebook by searching for Mad Max Minute, and join our Facebook listener group, Mad Max Minute Beyond Microphone.
If you'd like to support the podcast, visit madmaxminute.com, where you can check out our TeePublic storefront by clicking the store link, join our Patreon by clicking the support link, or make a one-time donation by clicking the donate link.
Thank you for joining us for minute 79 of Beyond Thunderdome. We'll see you next time.
Everybody say